The polls will be open for a few more hours tonight, giving voters a last chance to weigh in. The midterm elections are here, and in a few hours, we'll have an idea of who's winning and what our local and national government will look like.
And just to give you a taste of our extensive coverage this evening, take a look at the plan. We have multiple live reports from across our area, from Rochester to Mason City, Osage to Albert Lea, and we also have political experts here in studio with us to do some analysis of everything we're seeing. We begin tonight with the tight race being closely watched across the country, the battle for the open U.S. Senate seat in Iowa between Joni Ernst and Bruce Braley.
Many believe the winner of this race could tip the balance in favor of their party in the Senate. Multiple polls have shown the race neck and neck, while others show Ernst with a lead. Moving to an Iowa State Senate race in District 27, challenger Sean Dietz is looking to take Amanda Reagan's seat. For more on this, KIMT News 3's Tyler Mickelson is live in Mason City, standing by with incumbent Amanda Reagan.
Amy, since 2003, Amanda Reagan has represented District 27, which includes Cerro Gordo, Butler, and Franklin counties. However, this year she could face her toughest challenge yet against Republican Sean Dietz. However, right now I am joined with the incumbent Democratic State Senator Amanda Reagan. Amanda, what are your thoughts on the campaign so far this year?
Well, it's just been a great whole summer, and we've met lots of voters. It's just been a challenge to get it all done, but it has been really, truly wonderful going to the doors, visiting with people, and just getting a chance to talk about issues.
Now, if you are re-elected in 2015, what are some of the issues that you're going to focus on in Des Moines?
Well, we'll continue to work with expanding the economy with good-paying jobs, build on quality education, and also helping with the seniors and keeping them in their homes, as well as supporting the renewable fuels, as we've done in the past.
All right, thank you so much, Amanda. Now, coming up next hour, we are going to chat with her challenger, Republican Sean Dietz, but right now we're going to send it to Dee Dee Stephen, who is live in Rochester covering the mayor race. Dee Dee.
Well, Tyler, this mayor's race in Rochester really comes down to who will be leading the Med City going into the first phase of the Destination Medical Center project. Current Mayor Ardell Brady has been in his seat since 2002 and has worked with state lawmakers to pass important bills like the DMC and the Mayo Civic Center expansion. Now, on the other side of the coin, Cindy Mavis says she will be the voice of reason in city leadership and an advocate for the average citizen. Interesting thing to note, Amy, is Mavis out fundraised Mayor Brady by $15,000.
All right, good information. Thank you, Dee Dee. We'll keep you updated on the results of both of those races later tonight. Polls in Minnesota close at 8. Polls in Iowa are open until 9. And of course, the weather can always impact voter turnout on Election Day. Doesn't look like that's the case in our area. Blessed with some wonderful weather.
Absolutely. I went out to the polling place and just could not believe how wonderful it really is. And for more on what it looks like and is going to look like for the last couple hours of voting, we are joined now by meteorologist Josh Worster, who's live in Mason City. Still beautiful out there, Josh?
Yeah, you know, it's still very nice out here. Clear skies, starting to cool down a little bit, but still above where our typical high temperatures are this time of year. And really, despite, you know, the mild temperatures, nothing stopped anybody from getting out to the polls today. And that hasn't always been the case, though. Look at some Election Day history. We topped out into the 70s for our warmest Election Day, and we've got as cool as the 20s for our coldest high Election Day. So obviously some variation there. And one of the bigger factors we always look at is the precipitation. Obviously, you know, rain or snow this time of year, both potential, and we've seen over 1.25 inches rain being reported on Election Day, and also over 2 inches of snow. Obviously, the snow playing a little bit more of an impact with people getting out to the polls, and like we mentioned, no issues today and no issues in sight if you're heading out for the rest of the night tonight. So definitely go out and cast that vote, and if you're a fan of the Election Day trivia or the Election Day fun facts, tune back in tonight at 6 o'clock because we have another list for you coming up then.
I am. This makes me want to go back to 2008, though, weather-wise.
70s,
yeah, right?
Wow.
You and me both.
Fantastic. Thank you, Josh.
Yeah.
Of course, the election isn't the only thing happening right now. The announcement is now being made official. A local Target will close its doors. The company announced today it was closing 11 locations beginning in February. That includes the one in Austin. A location in Clinton, Iowa will be closed as well.
An update to a fatal crash that happened last week. The driver of one of the vehicles is recovering. According to Mayo Clinic, Avenel Ross is now in fair condition. Last week, she was in critical condition following the accident on the Avenue of the Saints. Police say Ross was driving the Dodge Caravan that struck a DOT vehicle on the Avenue of the Saints. The passenger in the van, Tom Frericks, was killed in the crash.
Well, depending on the outcome, this election could make history. Many firsts could come from the midterm, including the possibility of the longest-serving governor in U.S. history, as well as the first woman from Iowa to make it to Washington. Whatever the outcome, it'll be at the hands of many voters. As KIMT News 3's Levi Ismail shows us, polling places have been very busy.
Precincts all across North Iowa are running out of election booths and election stickers as they try to meet the tremendous voter turnout. In Mason City, precincts are expected to see as many as 700 to 800 voters turn out at each location. Voting officials say it's been a constant pace since the polls first opened early this morning at 7 a.m. and that they expect a larger than anticipated rush in some locations when the polls close this evening. In Mason City, Levi Ismail, KIMT News 3.
Well, Mason City precincts are expected to see as many as 700 voters turn out at each location. Well, in Iowa's 1st Congressional District, Republican Rod Blum is facing Democrat Pat Murphy. The two are vying for the open house seat left vacant by Bruce Braley. And here's a few more races. Steve King is looking for another term in Iowa's 4th Congressional District. He's facing Democratic challenger Jim Maurer. And as we mentioned, Rod Blum is facing Pat Murphy. And also Terry Branstad is looking for a 6th term as governor, and Democratic challenger Jack Hatch will try to prevent history. If Branstad wins, he'll most likely become the nation's longest serving governor during his next term.
And thank you, Amy. We are now joined by Bennett Smith, history and political science instructor at NIAC. He's here to talk to us about some of the big races tonight, give us some perspective. We're going to check first on the big one, the race between Joni Ernst and Bruce Braley, the big race across the country being watched by political watchers everywhere. This started as Braley way out in front, say this spring, before people really knew who Joni Ernst was. What changed?
I think a couple of things, Matt. One is there's a real anti-Washington sentiment going on in the country. And then secondly, Braley made a real gaffe early in the campaign with the comments about Chuck Grassley being a farmer. And so I think that really hurt him early on in the race.
You think that gaffe was enough to knock his standing?
I think it did. I think it set him back in the race, and I think he's had a hard time competing with the narrative that Joni Ernst has put out, which is a very Iowa-centered kind of narrative.
Sure. Well, it's something you definitely hear about in conversation when talking about this race. Also, big news over the weekend, a Des Moines Register poll showed Joni Ernst up by 7 percentage points. Do you see that as accurate? How do you predict this turning out tonight?
Well, that's interesting, Matt, because the Des Moines Register poll is widely considered the gold standard of polling. But I doubt that it's +7. Quinnipiac came out with a poll yesterday, so it was +0. And I think it's going to be about +2 or 3 for Ernst.
Okay, so a tight one.
Tight race, but I think the wave is enough for Ernst to get through.
All right, thank you for your analysis. We'll be checking back in with Bennett throughout the evening. For now, set it back to Amy.
The House race is heating up in District 51. Democratic candidate Laura Hubka is hoping to take the seat of incumbent Josh Burns. KIMT News 3's Allie Krug joins us live in Osage with candidate Burns.
That's right, Amy. I'm here with Republican candidate Josh Burns, who is running to keep his seat in the House of Representatives. Now, Josh, let's talk about the campaign. How do you think things went this year?
Oh, I think they went fine. You know, we do what we always do and run a good, clean, positive campaign. You get out there, you tell voters about, you know, especially when you're an incumbent, you tell them about the things you've done, the things you've accomplished, and then you talk about the things that you're going to continue to work on, and you tell them your plan, you know, and I think that's what they want to hear.
Absolutely. Now, if things go your way tonight, what will be your first steps in office?
Well, obviously, I think most people out there would know my passion for road funding and trying to figure out how we're going to pay for our aging infrastructure and roads and bridges, and so, you know, that's probably priority one as soon as the session starts in January.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck tonight, and we'll hear more from District 51 coming up later on. We're going to talk with Democratic candidate Laura Hubka, but for now, let's check in with KIMT's Raquel Hellman. She's live in Albert Lee with the Freeborn County Sheriff's race. Raquel?
Thank you very much, Allie. Yeah, it's one of the most talked about races in our area this year, the Freeborn County Sheriff's race, as you said. And I am joined now by one of the candidates, Deputy Kurt Freitag. Kurt, thank you for joining us on this crazy day for you, I know.
Thank you.
Now, there's a few more hours. The polls are open a few more hours. What would your last-minute message be to voters to go out there, and what would you like them to know?
I think what I'd like for people to know is that during this campaign season, I've talked about fundamental services that we need to provide to the people of our county, things like better investigations, more patrol presence, and also I want to get our ICE contract back up to where it should be, and those are my goals. right off the bat, and also improving morale. So, you know, in a nutshell, that's what I'd like for people to know when they go to the polls these last, 3 hours.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Kurt. And we will be hearing from his opponent, Sheriff Bob Kindler, coming up tonight at 6. For now, back to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Raquel. We'll have much more from you throughout the evening as well. Joining me now is political analyst Dr. Eric Shores, and he's here to talk about some of the top Minnesota races. Thank you for coming in today.
Always good to be here.
Well, Ernst and Braley, that's the big race. A lot of eyes are watching that tonight. How about the U.S. Senate seat in Minnesota as well?
There's going to be much more drama in Iowa tonight than there will be in Minnesota. There's a lot of safe seats, and I think you'll see Senator Franken win comfortably. I think you'll see Governor Dayton win by a lesser margin than Franken will win in his Senate race. And I think you'll see Tim Walz come through as well. I think the race to watch is the Savick-Bennett race. There's been a lot of time, effort, campaigning, and money put into that race. And really where the drama will be tonight for Minnesota is will the Democrats keep the House of Representatives, and that's really what Dayton is counting on. And in his campaigning for House candidates, he's been saying, we don't want Washington gridlock here. Let's keep it a Democratic St. Paul.
Okay. Do you think anything more on that Shannon Savick, Gene Poppy, anything vulnerable with that?
Savick, vulnerable. Poppy, I think, wins comfortably, but again, probably not by as great a margin as Franken will win the Senate.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll have more from you later on, Eric. Matt?
And moving on to a few more races that we will be covering tonight. In Minnesota, the gubernatorial race is between incumbent Mark Dayton and Republican challenger Jeff Johnson. Now, if Dayton wins, this will be his second term in office. Another seat up for grabs in Minnesota's 1st congressional district. Incumbent Tim Walz is running for his 5th term in Congress. Republican challenger there, Jim Hagedorn. Coming up, we're taking a brief break from the election as a whistleblower speaks out about what he saw when he worked for some of the country's biggest food companies.
Covering Your Health is next.
You are watching KIMT News 3 at 5. Iowa, Minnesota together.
It is almost the 4th of July. Fireworks are a staple of the upcoming holiday weekend, but many kinds are not legal in our area. What you need to know, coming up. First, though, tonight, a body is found nearly 2 weeks after a man is reported missing, and police say the circumstances around his death are suspicious.
Rochester authorities released his identity this afternoon and are now turning to the public for more clues. KIMT News 3's Dee Dee Stephen joins us live in Rochester with more. Dee Dee?
Well, Matt, Amy, the body was found yesterday afternoon, but just hours ago, police released an identity. They believe that the body of 38-year-old Robert Dumond found near an old cemetery plant on the 800 block of Civic Center Drive Northwest. Now, they believe that the body could have been there for up to a week. Now, police aren't yet releasing information on why they consider this to be a suspicious death. They just say that there were circumstances that caused even seasoned investigators to question what happened. Now, the preliminary autopsy is complete, but we don't yet know the cause of death. Dumond was reported missing on June 20th, and now police are trying to reach anyone who may have been in contact with him on or around that date.
Thanks, Dee Dee. If you have any information on the case, you're asked to call Crime Stoppers.
And you can find that by visiting our website, KIMT.com. You can find that with this story under local news. Well, you most likely are going to be seeing plenty of fireworks in the next few days, and if you plan on lighting some of your own, there are plenty of rules for you to keep in mind.
Like, for example, what you can and cannot light off in Minnesota compared to Iowa. KIMT News 3's Levi Ismail is live for us in Mason City and has more. Levi?
Matt and Amy, it may say made in China here on the box, but quite frankly, there's nothing that you can find more American than fireworks on the 4th of July. Now, perhaps you're planning on seeing a few of these things lighting up the night sky, and quite frankly, if you do plan on lighting off a few of your own, keep these things in mind. Although lawmakers were close to passing a new fireworks legislation in Iowa this past session, they came up just short. That means any firework that shoots sparks or balls of fire are still illegal to purchase in Iowa unless you have proper permits. So instead, many make their way to stands just like these in Minnesota where you can buy fountain fireworks. Retailers say most customers are simply interested in the bigger and better products.
We really don't get many questions on safety. Some people ask questions about children and sparklers and what's the best one for them. That's about it. People's major concern in southern Minnesota is where can they buy the big stuff.
Now, these fireworks are just an example of what you can buy in Minnesota compared to Iowa. These fireworks say that they emit showers of sparks. Now, these fireworks are not necessarily illegal to own in the state of Iowa, just if you plan on lighting them off. So for the time being, while we plan on figuring out some of those rules, we'll leave some of these bigger ones to the experts and just stick with the classics.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Love the sparklers. They're fun. All right, thanks, Levi. The fireworks legislation was tabled until legislators return for their next session in January. For more information on the rules and regulations, you can visit our website, KIMT.com, and click on this story under Local News.
Now, when it comes to the fireworks that we see in the sky, we want to be sure on a holiday weekend that those are all man-made, not from nature.
That's right. And so often, you know, it seems like we talk about showers and thunderstorms around the 4th of July, and are they going to hit during fireworks time or not? This year looks like it should be pretty ideal overall for the holiday, which is great news.
Good. I promised some people that it was going to be a good weekend, so
good.
Don't make a liar out of me, okay?
Well, it's on his shoulders, not mine.
I know it is.
Okay, why don't we take a look and see what's happening right now on our Storm 3 live site. Right now, Northwood Kansas School. The temperature sitting at 74 degrees. Again, a fairly mild day, 78 in Grand Meadow at the middle school. The wind's not even too strong, and the winds are going to be staying fairly decent as we go ahead in the future as well. Your temperatures across the viewing area, well, they're generally going to be into the mid to lower 70s right now, and as we head towards the 6 o'clock hour, dropping more so into the lower 70s. A few upper 60s by 6 o'clock tonight, or by 7 o'clock tonight, then upper 60s for most of us by about 8 o'clock. And your CityCast and Charles City shows that will start the day or the evening at about 70, partly cloudy skies. By midnight, right around 60, mostly clear skies. And as we head into the evening hours, we'll still see mostly sunny skies, or it started the day tomorrow, mostly sunny skies. Temperatures in the mid-50s, but looks like it's going to be a little bit warmer, but still plenty of sunshine, and I'll show you how much warmer, a little bit.
Yesterday felt cold, so warmer sounds pretty good.
It really does.
Thanks, Adam, Amy.
Thanks, Matt. More than 500 people died on U.S. roads over the 4th of July holiday in 2013, and nearly 40% of those deaths, someone involved had blood alcohol levels over the legal limit. KIMT News 3's Jaron Rennie has more from Albert Lee on what law enforcement is asking of you this weekend.
July 4th is the third deadliest holiday when it comes to drunk driving here in Minnesota, so law enforcement wants you to drive safe. They're encouraging motorists to buckle up, slow down, and pay attention, especially in construction zones. You should always look out for motorcyclists, and most importantly, always drive sober. That means make plans before you drink.
There's a lot more cars being left up to the bars. A lot more people are taking cabs. A lot of better decisions being made, but you still do have people out there that will be drinking, and then they'll make a decision to drive after they've been drinking too much, and it's not the time to make your decisions.
The Department of Public Safety says DWI arrests have declined for 8 straight years here in Minnesota, but there are still nearly 7 people arrested each hour for a DWI on July 4th. In Albert Lee, Jaron Rennie, KIMT News 3.
There will be extra patrols on both Iowa and Minnesota roads this weekend looking for impaired drivers.
An Iowa man is pleading not guilty to gunning down a woman in Coralville last month. Investigators believe 22-year-old Alexander Kozak, who attended high school in Osage, shot and killed Andrea Farrington at the Coral Ridge Mall. Kozak worked there as a security guard but had quit his job the day of the shooting. The victim also worked at the mall at the Children's Museum. Shortly after the shooting, Kozak was arrested during a traffic stop near Davenport. The bird flu outbreak might be slowing down, but it is not over, and the federal government is announcing plans today to start monitoring wild birds to gauge any signs of a possible resurgence. Officials say the plan would help minimize the impacts on domestic birds if the outbreak worsens or mutates. Federal and state biologists will collect more than 40,000 samples from healthy wild birds, mostly from ducks shot by hunters. The outbreak has cost poultry producers nearly 50 million birds nationwide.
As the 2016 presidential election gets closer, we will see more candidates heading to both the Gopher and Hawkeye states, which candidates say they choose for a reason.
It's obviously very, very important. They play an early role in the primary process, in the caucus process. And I think the message that we're bringing forth, that establishment politics, establishment economics is not working, that there's something wrong when so few have so much.
This morning, a packed Rochester International Event Center got to hear from Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, who's running for the Democratic nomination. Sanders touched on a number of issues, the cost of college and expanding the middle class. Last night, Sanders drew a crowd of nearly 10,000 in Madison, Wisconsin. A fifth Democratic contender has joined Bernie Sanders for their party's nomination. Former Virginia Senator Jim Webb made the announcement on his website today. Webb is a Vietnam veteran and the former Secretary of the Navy under President Ronald Reagan. He was elected to Congress in 2006 and only served one term.
Just a few days ago, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie officially joined the race, and now another sitting governor is set to announce his plans for the White House as well. Aides close to Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker say he will make it official on July 13th. That event will be in a suburb of Milwaukee. The 47-year-old is in his second term as governor. A poll of likely Iowa Republican caucus participants released yesterday shows Walker in first place among GOP hopefuls. And the current president is in Walker's home state of Wisconsin today, greeted by Walker himself once he stepped off Air Force One. In La Crosse, President Obama talked mostly about the economy, also took a bit of a jab at the number of Republicans running for the White House in 2016.
And speaking of the president, the nation continues to react to his announcement of reopening an embassy in Cuba, and that includes Minnesota Senator Al Franken. The second-term senator was in Rochester earlier today. Franken tells us he is hopeful the U.S. also lifts the embargo against Cuba, which could mean new business opportunities to people in our area.
There are two things that we can do. One, we can export, agricultural goods to them, but also agricultural know-how and equipment. The Cubans right now are using Soviet-era agricultural equipment.
Franken says although he doesn't agree with the way the Cuban political system is set up, he believes it's about time we mend our relationship with the island nation. As we mentioned earlier, the bird flu outbreak is not over.
Millions of birds have been affected, but is there a risk for human infection? We've been asking this for weeks. We'll find out next in Covering Your Health.
You are watching KIMT News 3 at 5. Iowa, Minnesota together.